By the late 1970s, Mercedes pretty much owned the mid-size executive saloon market with its E-Class, and it dominated the large luxury saloon market with its S-Class. But the compact executive market, that belonged to BMW and its ubiquitous 3 Series. Now Mercedes wasn't having that, so it developed what it codenamed the W201, or what you probably know as the 190e. But did it work? Was it a hat-trick for Mercedes, and did they beat BMW on their home turf? Well, let's take this 190e for a drive and find out. But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter. Now Mercedes had a reputation for quality by the time the E-Class and the S-Class were dominant, and they weren't going to let the new small Mercedes be any less bulletproof. Between 1974 and 1982, while developing the W201, Mercedes spent reportedly £600 million on doing so. Retrospectively, they've recently said that this car was massively over-engineered, and frankly, you can believe them. Part of that development money went on safety. In 1984, airbags became an optional extra, and ABS was added in 1989. Not to mention, Mercedes were pioneering in their crash safety for the 190e. They repeatedly crashed these things into concrete blocks at 35 miles an hour and kept refining the body structure until there was no serious occupant injury and no intrusion into the cabin. In safety regards, the 190e was a bit of a pioneer, really. Another chunk of change was spent on the suspension. The 190e got 5-link rear suspension to make it handle and ride like a BMW, and it got built-in anti-squat geometry, where the rear control arms would actually move in place under acceleration to stop the car pitching backwards and forwards as you accelerated hard to overtake people on the Autobahn. But how does all that suspension engineering translate into the real world? Well, this is the 190e with the smallest engine offered, only a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder petrol. And on this twisting Norfolk road here, it's plenty. It's got enough pick up and go to just take off, and the handling is very BMW-esque. It's sharp, it's composed. The steering is a bit numb, to be honest, and to be fair, an E21 or an E33 series will edge the 190e on steering feel, but it's direct, it's eager, turns in, it grips well, and the suspension is tight enough to keep it composed. It's good fun to chuck around, it's nimble, and it feels light and agile. This is every bit as enjoyable as a BMW, and because you're that bit more comfortable, in some cases, more enjoyable. And that little 1.8 is plenty to be getting on with. This has got the automatic gearbox and it'll kick down eagerly, and it's got enough pace to keep it moving if you're in the momentum carrying state of mind. It's good fun, this. You wouldn't imagine a 190e as a B-road hero, but you know what? You can have a bit of fun in one. So Mercedes had created a good little chassis in the 190e, and it was ripe for going racing. In 1983, that's exactly what they did, entering it into the DTM, the German Touring Car Championship. Now, part of the rules for that stipulated that there had to be road-going versions to homologate any changes they made. So on the road cars, we got the Mercedes 190e Cosworth. Initially a 2.3 and then a 2.5 litre, the Cosworth got sports seats, bigger brakes, sports suspension, and as much as 183 horsepower. It dominated in the German Touring Car Championship, and the road car was every bit the equal of the E30 M3. And it was no less durable than the standard 190. In fact, a group of 190e Cosworths set 3 distance time speed records at the Nardo test track in Italy. But even the standard 190e road car had plenty to write home about. As we've said, it was great fun to drive, but it was also every bit a Mercedes. It was comfortable, it was refined, and the quality was there in spades. Even in this example now, which is getting on for 35, 40 years old, everything in it still clunks and clicks and works properly. This still feels like it will go on for another 30 or 40 years. This is a quality product. But then, Quality costs. The 190e was over 10% more expensive than a BMW 323i and nearly 20% more than the similarly sized but better equipped Ford Sierra Ghia. But in truth, the Sierra Ghia wasn't even on the radar of your 190e customer. They wanted that same Mercedes quality, that same prestige and that same upmarket feel, but in a more compact and more affordable package. And that's exactly what the 190e delivered. If it's not clear by now, I love the 190e. It's a fantastic all-round package and it's got pretty much everything going for it. There's not really anything that an E33 series can do that the 190e can't, and in some cases better. Mercedes sold 1.87 million 190es over an 11-year run, and even today it's considered one of their proper high watermarks. They're still a common sight on everyday roads as well. They're comfortable enough, well equipped enough, and certainly durable enough that these are a completely viable daily driver. Now, there will be those of you pointing out that the E33 series sold another 600,000 on top, and that these days it is the more desirable, more sought after car. But let's be honest with ourselves, the vast majority of E30s are bought to be modified, to be turned into drift cars or race cars. They're not really on the road in their big numbers as BMW intended. By comparison, I'd say 95% of 190es are completely unmodified. They're just kept, preserved and used regularly by their owners who revel in having something just a little bit different. And what's more, whereas a good E30 these days can be £6,000, £7,000, £8,000, you can get into a usable 190e for £2,000. A 190e for £2,000 could well be the best classic Mercedes bargain of the lot. It's comfortable, it's practical, it's uber reliable, fun to drive, good looking, and rather charming in that 80s Mercedes way. The 190e might be the baby Benz, but doesn't leave you feeling shortchanged.
This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link in the video description to enter their latest competition.